This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
The stats certainly make things look as though they are in favor of David Holland currently, but the multi-time champion has to continue his onslaught if he wants to keep hold of the crown. Greg Seitz' consistency has kept him in check, and the points distance is still only a measly 14 markers. Can Holland keep it up? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 6 of the PRL Formula 3 Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Phillip Island is probably more well known for motorcycles and touring cars, but our open wheelers feel right at home on this famous Australian circuit. Let's hop on board and see what it looks like for the drivers with our track guide.
All right, we've got Scott Newton in the GSRC Formula Renault 2.0, so let's do a lap around Phillip Island. Coming down to Dooham, the front stretch goes a long way, so expect lots of drafting to cause side-by-side action into this fast sweeper. Thankfully, it's easily flat out. If they do hold it around the outside, they could have a leg up into the southern loop, where you might see passes completed. But this corner is off-camber, has a crest, and forces a dramatically late apex. Self-made errors will be common. Exiting off, get onto the power confidently and hug the left through Stoner. Then, stay on that side unless you intend to attack or defend. A great many of the passes attempted will likely take place here into Honda, but at the same time, it's very easy to outbrake yourself on entry and slither wide onto the escape road. From out of the corner, you'll switch sides right away to line up for Siberia. There's an uphill climb through this bend, and it's followed by a long period on the gas, so getting to the power as early as it'll grip is critical. You've now hit the backside of the course, and these weaving S's are essentially a straight in the Renault. Straighten them out as best as you can, and then hold off to the right on the approach to Lukey Heights. This long arc is blind, has a decreasing radius, and requires more breathing of the throttle than actual braking. Hold to the left over the top of the hill, and then brake for MG, but be aware of surprise attacks. Right away, the track switches back into the penultimate corner where you'll barely breathe the throttle and then floor it from here on out. The final turn is flat out, and with it leading you back onto the pit straight, leaving anything on the table in terms of top speed will make you vulnerable. Hopefully, you kept it all together and have now finished a lap around Phillip Island.
There you see from on board the Formula Renault 2.0. Of course, we're running the Dallara F3 here today, Sam. And I have to say, we're all kind of eager to see how this plays out on this new tire, because this will be the first time we're watching it with the new tire at this track.
Good day, Bruce, and thank you, Bruce. Here we are at the Phillip Island circuit for a 45-minute race around here, and this is a fun one. This is a fun track, it's a fun car, it does well on this circuit. However, the track temperature is cool. We'll get to a bit more of that in a moment, so that could cause some cars to slide around a little bit. But just look at the image here, look what you've got, right? Ignore the numbers at the bottom of the screen. There aren't really any tight turns apart from the hairpin and the hurry downs area. This track just has a really good flow to it. It's high speed, the drivers love it, we love it as fans, as spectators, and there's also a giant front straight with a high speed first corner where there's plenty of slipstreaming passes and opportunities to make an overtatement on the guy in front of you. So hopefully we'll be in for some great action today. Back to you, Bruce.
I'm sure that'll be a continuing theme with Sam today. But real quick, we want to mention our sponsor. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Big thanks to them for sponsoring this season. But this season, as I mentioned, has been a little bit one-sided because we've had a winner, the same winner, 4 out of the 5 rounds that we've contested. And that is David Holland, who is at the top of the charts. But like I said, only 14 points between himself and Greg Seitz. With the drop weeks helping get rid of that first round that Seitz had a DNF, he's still very much in contention, and Holland can't afford to have too much of a slip-up. David Soroy, who's looking very good today once you see him in qualifying, is actually in a very hotly contested battle for third there with Kevin Santana and Rod Clenard. Only 5 points separating third, fourth, and fifth. What about the team's championship here, Sam? How's that looking?
Yeah, let's take a look. We'll bring up the top 5 in the team's championship, and there you see there is a healthy points gap between first and second, but everything's tight after that. So Vantage Zero have the advantage this deep into the season. That's a healthy cushion to have, and they're probably going to walk away with a trophy at the end of the season, but you never know in motorsport. Behind them, just 18 points separating second to fifth there. Lavoy Motorsport, Vantage Rosso, Davidson Motorsport, and Rust Racing.
And as always, in case we've got viewers who haven't watched one of these PRL F3 races before, let's give you the rundown on the details. We have round 6 today, and it is a 45-minute race. Every round is 45 minutes in length, and they have an open setup in this series, so you can tweak these Formula 3s to your liking. They also have an incident limit. Well, that means that essentially if drivers have enough off tracks or spins, or if they make contact with another car, they rack up a certain amount of incidents. If they reach the number 20 with those, they will be disqualified immediately. There's also bonus points there listed at the bottom. They're trying to get one of those right now with the pole position, and they have no spare car, so if they get any sort of damage, they've certainly got to deal with it, come in and get repairs, and hope that they can get back out and be relatively fast. We're watching this once again on the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe when you get the opportunity. Very easy to do so. All you got to do is click on the big red button that says subscribe, and then you won't miss a moment here on IESN, where we not only have the PRL GTE and Formula 3 series, but many others from all the major broadcasters here on iRacing. The pole position currently belongs, interestingly, to Greg Seitz, and David Holland is very late to get out on track. We're watching Sheldon Rosenbaum, the Texan, trying to get a better lap in currently, who sits in 6th position. I'm not sure why David waited as long as he did, though.
I don't think he's been connected to the session. Hold on, Joe. I don't know if that means he's having computer issues or anything, but I think he might have been struggling with some connection issues or something at home or whatever. But whatever the reason, he's here now. As you mentioned, he is on the lap and the clock is running on his time. However, because of the way pit road is set up here, I'm pretty sure he's still on an outlap. We're seeing times for drivers' outlaps being clocked in just because of where the start-finish line is. So I think we'll have to wait a couple more minutes to see what David Holland does, because he was the fastest driver in practice. He was able to run a 121.5 in practice. Right now, Greg Seitz' provisional pole time is a 121.6.
Talked about Soroy looking very good in the warm-up. Well, right now he's sitting 3rd as well. He's had a couple podiums himself. He's currently got a time of 121.9. So he's got about 0.3 to make up to try and get up to Greg Seitz, and just finishing up a lap now as we're watching Holland for a moment. Coming down the front stretch, Soroy, let's see if this one's any quicker. It is not. He's a few tenths off, almost half a second off of his fastest lap.
I think David Holland might have got a bit of a curb on his outlap. I think I'm seeing a tiny bit of damage to his front wing. And you mentioned that 20 incident point limit today, Joe. I don't think we're going to have to worry about that too much, because there's some curbs around this track, especially in the hurry downs area, that you don't really want to get on. They can kind of upset the car. I think they're raised a little bit. In the middle, the infield, the curbs flatten out a bit, and you can definitely use them to your advantage if you're in the battle, because we do normally end up with some good battles in the middle sectors around this corner. But right now, I'm watching David Holland, Joe. He's coming through the hurry downs, and we'll see if he is impeded by any kind of traffic or any kind of damage on his car. I think he's actually had a pretty clean lap, so we'll see what David Holland's first run is. And, if it's not provisional pole, I think it's going to be up there, and he still has 5 minutes left to get in another lap.
As he crosses the line, it is a 22.3, and that will actually bump him up to 14th, so pretty much a medium lap. Now, granted, we've seen that it takes a while for these tires to get up to temperature, which is part of why I was so shocked that he waited so long to get out. He does have enough time to get in, maybe 2 or 3 more laps as we watch Santana, see if he can get higher than 5th. Looks like he stays put, though.
Yeah, and for your Greg Sykes fans, he is out on the track as well. Not only is he going to be feeling the pressure from Holland at the end of his qualifying session, but he also has some pressure now. Dave Saroy is only a tenth of a second back of him, second fastest right now. So, if David could find a little bit of time, he could end up stealing provisional pole away from Greg. I think Greg was held up a bit there by that car he just got by, so I don't expect this lap to be anything to shout about, and it's not. As a matter of fact, that might have been an outlap.
Yeah, I do believe it was an outlap. I'm watching Soroy here, and it looks like, yeah, he's on the back half of the course. We've got Verity on screen, and he sits in ninth. Let's see what this lap is. 25.7. That also must have been some sort of outlap for him.
Here's Holland. He's coming across the line. Let's see if his tyres have warmed up, if he's gained any time. Yes, but not enough for the pole. He's still back in seventh.
To tell you how competitive it is today, though, he went from 14th to 7th, and he only improved by 0.2. So that mid-pack is going to be incredibly tight. Santana as well here. Let's see what he has. Still about a tenth slower than his quickest. Sorry there, Sam.
Yeah, it's not unusual to end up with packs of cars around here, especially considering this is such a good track for battles. Well, of course, whenever two cars get involved in a battle, it bunches everyone up behind them. So I'm expecting a good race here today, a good show for the fans.
Now, I don't recall Jean-Francois Matt being as quick as he's been today in previous races. I mean, he's usually been decent, but he's currently up in fourth. So not a bad showing by the 218. Duprat still coming around. He's down in 13th as well. He's in the thick of that close fight I was talking about amongst the mid-pack. So the Texas driver looking to improve on that 22.2. What has he got? Just about 6/10 short. Ooh, Holland continues to improve. Looks like 2 more tenths down, and that puts him in 4th place.
But he's running out of time, Joe. I mean, for whatever reason, like we mentioned, he was out there late in the session, and it might end up biting him a little bit here unless he's able to pull in a magic lap in the last couple of moments. Now, of course, because it's so easy to pass, I don't necessarily think he's out of contention for the win if he qualifies back in 4th or something. But the trouble spot here is turn 2, especially with the cooler temperatures here. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of cars go spinning in turn 2 today. And the closer you start towards the front, the less chance you have of being affected if someone spins in turn 2 on the opening lap.
Spicer on his outlap has got one more chance because we got about 20 seconds left. Everybody's trying to sneak around to start that one final go. We might actually get the checkered flag for Lionel Duprat here. It's going to be awful close because it is a long run to this finish line.
Yeah, I don't know if Holland will make it in time.
Down and across the line, Duprat with a 22.2, so he improves up to 11th. Holland did not improve, and he might be done. I didn't quite see if he was across the line in time.
I don't think he was, but he's still going full on, so I think he's going to take his chances, be like, hey, maybe I got lucky, maybe I did cross the line in time, and he might just run a hot lap here, whether it counts or not.
Someone going to the line slow there. Delp not able to go any higher in his qualifying. Let's see who else we've got finishing. Daniel Barnett, who's down in 26. We're lacking about 3 drivers to put a time in, but I do believe that Bradley Hawley, who is one of them, has left the session since I last looked. Greg Sykes still has the pole, is going to finish his last lap.
Yeah, I think we've got about 6 cars wrapping up lap times here, and David Holland's really the only one of those who's a front runner at this point in time. And here you see him working his way through the last couple of corners. That's Armando Edwards behind him. I'm 99% certain if he tried to run a lap, it won't count. I almost feel that way about Holland, but let's see what happens.
This will tell the tale as he crosses the line. Oh, and it's a 21.8. That's up to 30. Still on the second row, but he snagged one last spot in his final go. He must have crossed with tenths to spare. That'll be everybody for our grid set in round 6 of the PRL F3 series. Let's go through that starting order. Greg Seitz on the top spot with David Soroy going to be challenging him from the outside. In second place, David Holland starting from third. Directly behind Greg will be flanked by Eric LeBlanc. Jean-Francois Matt gets bumped back to fifth with Holland moving forward and Santana on the outside of row 3. Then Daniel Kranefuss will be starting in 7th and Sheldon Rosenbaum in P8. Andrew Duffy starts 9th today and Stephen Verity in 10th.
Yeah, and then starting 11th is Lionel Duprat, and then behind him is Armando Edwards. Raymond Day will be starting 13th ahead of Joshua Daniels. Nicholas Delp will start from 15th place. Behind him is James David. Row number 9 will have Sebastian Prohl and Owen McLachlan. Christopher Richards will start 19th and Kyle Strikeouts will start 20th. Nailed it. Talking about nails, Joe, 21st.
Yep, that is the Hammer, which is better known as Kyle Kammer, who will be starting 21st, and Andy Spicer 22nd. Then you've got Matthew Hall in 23rd, Mike Richter in P24, and David Blackwood in 25th. Last two to put a time in are Daniel Barnett and David Abair in 26th and 27th. Don Lee, Bradley Hawley, and Matthew Gunderson did not set times, but I can confirm Bradley Hawley still not in the session. I expect Lee and Gunderson to line up. Waiting for everybody to get out there now. This will be fascinating since we've got our two championship leaders, one after the other, nose to tail at the start here. And I wonder if that'll actually work out better for Holland to be on the same side as his rival.
You know, one thing I noticed that the W Series uploaded its full-length races from last year, Joe, and these Formula 3 cars, they're tricky to get off the line, and that is represented quite well on iRacing here as well. Some drivers get much better starts than others.
Yeah, and with the conditions as they are, you have to wonder. The lights are up, the engines are revving, green flag is out. Seitz not that great off the line, actually. Soroy is already looking around the outside as they come up to Doohan. And behind them, stalking, is David Holland. Maybe he has enough momentum to try and challenge. Certainly looks like Soroy could maybe make something happen into the southern loop, and he does. He's into the lead, still fighting back. Red Seitz tries to come back around the outside, and he's got a nose in. Oh, but now he gets chopped off. Weaves back to the other side as they come up to Honda corner. We had a problem in the back as I see a car slipping down the order.
Stephen Verratti. He had a spin from the top 10.
And it looks like Soroy is able to successfully defend that lead. So Seitz loses the top spot at the start of this race and now finds David Holland right behind him. LeBlanc still in fourth place, and Kevin Santana jumps up to P5.
Yeah, so that extra spot that David Holland gained on the grid might not have helped him track position-wise. It's because he still got to the outside of the circuit to make turn 1, but it did help him just having those extra yards over Eric LeBlanc and the rest of the field. He was able to secure third place at the start, and now he's right on the back of Greg Seitz as they come around to complete the first lap. So yeah, that was Stephen Verratti. He started in 10th place. He went spinning on the exit of turn 2. It was so late in the corner, I almost wondered if there was contact.
With Seitz is using that slipstream already. It's allowed him to get alongside. Oh, that looked like a little bit of a lift there from Soroy. This could put him under threat because Holland is quick, but he's on the outside once they hit the southern loop. We hop on board with Holland now and ride along to see if he can get into second ahead of David.
And behind him, Kevin Santana has just had a big off from 5th place. He rejoins safely, but loses a bunch of positions. But yeah, so this battle for first, second, and third heating up. I think David Soroy probably gave up the ghost to Greg Seitz in that battle because he didn't want to lose time to David Holland. However, it didn't work. David Holland still caught him.
Now trying to see where Santana wound up. Looks like he is back on track in 9th. Let's stay with this, though, because, boy, is there some pressure being applied by David Holland. He had to go to the inside of Honda corner. That didn't quite work out. He backs off of it now that they swing down into MG. And then it's going to come back around these last two turns onto the front stretch. Once again, critically, Greg Seitz has pulled himself away from Soroy by about 0.6 of a second.
But how powerful is the draft, Joe? He has a 0.6 of a second lead. What's it going to look like at the end of the straight? Is the toe enough here that that's actually to Soroy's advantage? Can it pull him away from Holland? Looks like the answer is no. Holland's going to get it.
Holland now up into second place. Now, something happened to Jean-Francois Matt because he's way down in 28th, and I saw Santana disappear. Oh, that must have been connection because it looks like he's back. So, obviously, got to go kick the modem if you're Kevin Santana. There is Matt down in 28th. Now, let me go see exactly what caused him to lose positions. Oh, you know what? He spun it out of the penultimate turn.
You know, that's...
Yeah, let's stay with some of the stuff up at the front because it's just a self-spin.
Yeah, what I was going to say, Joe, I was listening to see if we were going to have a replay of that spin, but I did a lap kind of in warm-up before entering the session as a spectator, and for some reason that turn caught me off guard in this car. It's not normally one where you think the car would lose traction, but for this car and track combo, it seems to be the case, or at least from my experience and from Matt's experience.
And it looks like Matthew Hall had some contact with David Blackwood in Siberia. Both of them wound up off track here. Let's take a look at the replay. This is going to be happening after they come through Honda. Let's see, are they trying to... We might be a little too far back because this is on the front stretch. And this happens all the way on the other side of the course. So might have to come back live here. Meanwhile, our leader, Greg Seitz, still holding at that 0.6 of a second. Holland is the one behind him now, though. David Soroy falling back from David. Oh, Soroy falling back from Holland, I should say. And Eric LeBlanc is back there in fourth, being challenged by Daniel Kranefuss.
David is the new Bruce, so here we go. We go back to Kranefuss and getting a look at this battle. So obviously not a whole lot of passing opportunities really around the hurry down, but here we come to Parson Haven.
And this is the teammate to Seitz, so this is going to be a good points day if they can hold on to this first and fifth. So far, he's not really reeling in LeBlanc by all that much. He gains towards the end by the time they hit Doohan. And he runs out of track now that they break on their way into the southern loop. Bit of a slide, though, from Eric, from what we could see on board here.
Kevin Santana and Andrew Duffy are having a bit of a scrap behind them as well. They've swapped back and forth for 7th and 8th place a couple of times just this lap.
And there's another one right there. Santana gets it back, or does he? Both of them locking the brakes up. Down into Honda. Duffy gets his nose back in, but he's on the wrong side now that they come into Siberia. I think he's got the pass done now.
I'd love to know the story behind why that corner is called Siberia, although it probably feels like it today with these cooler track temperatures. So a lot of good scraps going on up here still, but I don't know how productive they are, considering that you know, this is very much a momentum-based rhythm circuit, and you lose a lot of that if you get involved in battles. But hey, it's a great show for the fans, and our leaders all still within drafting distance of one another, so still a lot left to happen as we're in the early stages of this race.
We got a big wreck with Richter. Richter is missing lots of parts, and Daniel Barnett as well. Looks like they both slammed into the tires, and I'm trying to figure out where this is on track, actually. I think this is in Lukey Heights. Yeah, it is. looks like Barnett just breaks way more than Richter expects. And they just come together in a big way.
Yeah, so that's an angle of that happening. And I think we need to go back to Santana and Duffy. We might be able to catch another incident live, because these two, I don't know if they're fighting over a girlfriend or something, but no, they're all over each other. It's just costing them both time. I mean, it's great fun to watch, but this is very early in the race. The cars are getting bunched up behind them, and right now Santana's the upper hand.
Prue and Edwards are the ones that you see back there getting clogged up by this fight. And I'd say that Sebastian is getting a little bit eager because he's climbing all over the rear wing of Duffy now. In fact, I'd say that Santana's managed to break the draft, and it's going to be Duffy that we've got to watch as they come down the front stretch. That bright orange machine ducks to the inside, or at least what's going to be the inside of Doohan. Let's see if he can get it done, though. Wheel to wheel. It's a game of chicken. Shorter distance this way, but now it switches back to the outside. Oh, he's trying to be late on the brakes, and he does it. Brave stuff from Sebastian.
And not a good lap there for Duffy then. Also not a good last lap for Eric LeBlanc. You may have noticed he's had an off of some sort because he's up all the way back to pit.
Now, we've lost a few drivers. Richter, we mentioned, Barnett, Matthew Hall, Gunderson. All of them are in pit lane currently, taking repairs. And in fact, Hall is left completely.
Kyle Schutzer has had a spin and took a tow to the pit.
That's bizarre because he didn't hit anything.
Yeah, no, it looked like a simple spin he would have been able to recover from, but he is out of a race. That adds to our early attrition here.
It's only been 10 minutes into this thing. So we come back to this fight back amongst, looks like now it's between Duffy, Edwards, and David. On the front stretch once more. Edwards might be a little too far behind Andrew Duffy here, but certainly James David going to get a nice little run. That neon machine in front of him might be put behind. Oh, but quite a bit of a fade across the track. And in fact, whoa, Edwards is close enough to Duffy. He's going to try and challenge. He starts to swing out and almost off into the grass. James David has to lift to keep from drifting into the weeds.
Yeah, I don't think Armando Edwards really was trying to pass Andrew Duffy there. He just knew if he didn't move back to the inside of the circuit, James David was going to get him. Now he might be trying to attack Duffy. He sticks his nose down the inside, but there's a lot of different braking oh, wow, big moment for James David there. That'll cost him a little bit of time. What I was trying to say about that hairpin back is that there's a lot of different ways you can take the entry of that corner. So if someone is attacking you from behind, you can just go into it a bit deeper. Might hurt you on exit as well.
Worth noting that the temperature is up to 70 degrees Fahrenheit now. It's been creeping upwards. It did start early in the morning here, this race. It's now 9 a.m. virtual standard time that they're racing out here in Australia. But our leader, Greg Seitz, has been unfazed by Holland. That late qualifying really has set the tone for the number 18, because even though he's stuck with Greg, he's not been on the attack. Oh, and it changed for fourth.
Yeah, Eric LeBlanc was on the attack. He just made a slipstream move by Daniel Krainfuss and takes fourth place away from him.
Meanwhile, Duffy's been just moving backwards. Edwards finally got him. So move Armando up to 9th.
Yeah, Duffy was in a whale of a battle for 7th recently, and like I say, all the way down to 10th now. I wonder if that's why. Oh, here we go. He's trying to get it back. So, contact a little bit there on the exit. I'm almost wondering if Duffy is one of those drivers right here who is dropping off a pace a little bit, but just isn't going to give up. And that's going to be a bit frustrating for the drivers trying to pass him, but we'll wait and see what happens. It's definitely exciting. Duffy is going to make a highlight reel at the end of this one.
Oh, and that's Edwards nearly drifting into James David to his outside. We got a car off track. That's LeBlanc. Ooh, and LeBlanc was in a battle of his own. I'm checking to see if there's any contact here.
Yeah, he
We'll
had
get
just
to the
taken
replay in a
off
bit.
from frame boost before that happened. So yeah, like you say, we'll find out exactly what happened there.
David with a run. Edwards covers off the inside coming into Doohan. It's not going to bite him, though, because if David can manage to stay side by side here, and he does not, so that was a savvy move from the number 26. Well, let's go look at that replay, and we might have to back up a little bit from the start of it. Oh, who was that having a bobble? That was Duffy, and there goes 2 positions immediately for Duffy as his own mistake gave him away.
Yeah, but what's going to happen here? He's going to try and get him back, I'm sure, within a couple of corners, because that's what he's been doing for the last 5 minutes or so. He is not giving up when he loses a position.
Not sure if we're going to get to the replay of LeBlanc here, the way things are going. Yeah, let's stay with this live here, because I don't think this is done by any stretch of the imagination. David on Edwards, and he's trying to get his nose in, coming up into Lukey heights. This is tough trying to outbrake someone as there's very little braking, if any. He's the inside of the big sweeper, but down into MG. He's on the outside, muscles his way out there. Not much grip on the AstroTurf, and Edwards retains that 8th position.
Oh, and Duffy not very good through the penultimate corner. That's going to allow Day to pass him there. And this is going to continue because Lionel Duprat is coming in on the backside of this as well. Edwards and David continue to be side by side as they go down the straight. We'll give you an update on Eric LeBlanc, by the way. He did get going again. He's just down in 18th.
Oh, Edwards can't quite hold him off this time. So David is got that 8th position, 9th for Edwards now. Duffy's still in P10. He got it back from Day down the front stretch. And then Duprat is now behind them.
Okay, if we do have that LeBlanc replay, I think now's the best chance we're going to have to see it.
Let's pull that up. I was going to say earlier, we'll definitely want before the initial spin because he was already out of sorts. And of course, he's fallen down to 18th position. There it is. There's the spin. He didn't make any contact, but he lost a lot of spots. If we back up just about 30 seconds from this, we can see him coming down the hill, actually have to catch the car big time. This will be great here, Sam, from on board.
Yeah, it's a tricky portion of the circuit. It takes a lot of laps when you first get this circuit on iRacing to really get the hand of this corner. And as you can see, even once you are one of the fastest drivers in the league, he was running 5th at the time, never quite got it. It's a tricky one.
It's a shame that he wound up spinning in the end because that was a magnificent catch. Kevin Santana with another spin of his own. I think, was this in Lukey Heights? It was either Lukey Heights or the Southern Loop. And the 666 is now down into 14th because that was Richards that just went by. Whoop, and he's now off track again.
And Duffy just had another slide that cost him positions today in Duprat. He stays on the circuit, but cost him 2 spots.
Not sure what is going on with Santana. Did he have some dirt on his tires, or how did he get out into the grass a second time there?
Well, it's, like we say, a bit of a rhythm circuit. I think every road course is when you're racing it at a high speed, and once you make one mistake and get out of that rhythm, it's so easy to make another one.
Our top drivers have all pretty well spread apart. Honestly, the closest battles we've got are for 7th and 8th in there, and then looks like a decent fight for 11th and 12th, Duffy and Daniels.
Yeah, but it's worth noting that Sykes and Holland have stayed at about the second pretty much the entire race since they've beat 1 and 2. So I wouldn't say that Sykes has won this race yet. Holland is not slower, he's just not fast enough to catch him right now.
Was a little bit quicker last time by. It was up to 1.1 seconds. It's gone down to about 0.8. So Holland is picking away at that lead. And we are into the pit window at this point. Once again, David and Edwards will not leave one another alone. So we ride on board with James. Looking back at Armando Edwards, this is a battle for 7th place. Let's see, at about 0.4 of a second apart. If they stay this far apart, I'm curious to see what the draft looks like with this distance once they hit the front stretch, but it's not going to stay that distance because James David was way too hot down into MG, caught the car, but now Armando Edwards is sitting pretty.
So they'll be battling down the front straight. Another battle. Oh no, that is the battle I'm seeing. I thought I saw something else out the window there, but no, here we go. So Armando Edwards goes by James David, but definitely not over yet, of course. And David might actually think about doing something in turn 2, but got a bit too close.
It covers him off. Yeah, Edwards made sure and held that inside line, so David had no chance. They keep fighting. Raymond Day is back there. He's only about 1.3 behind, so he could get into this as well. Oh, another defensive move there. Edwards making sure to keep the inside line covered. Much better on the brakes. James David, oh, too good on the brakes as he sends it in deep, but he manages to find grip way around the outside edge. I don't know how he is still with him. He's got the inside into Siberia, and now he's fully passed. Will Edwards try it once again into Lukey Heights, though?
Yeah, I think 7th through 12th has been anyone's game for about the last 10-15 minutes here, so David has it right now ahead of Edwards. As you mentioned, Day has worked his way up from 12th to 9th and could be looking at 2 more spots if this ends in tears. David has the advantage coming through the penultimate corner, but now we get to find out the answer to your question, Joe. Does a toe from as far back as Edwards is sitting right now, is that close enough to make a pass? And honestly, it could differ by car. Remember, they are open setups.
This is true. Whoever's got more wing cranked in is going to be a little bit more vulnerable. And he's certainly catching him quick. It looks like it's enough to get you there, but not necessarily by. He takes a little bit of a peek, and it looks like it's going to stay in the hands of James David, and behind them, Day is off. Day is taking a visit to the beach, and he loses many spots here. He's down to 12th place just from that one error, make that 13th, 14th now. Man, they are just freight training him as we go to replay.
Yeah, that's not a nice day at the beach.
Manages to bring it back without hitting the wall, but you can see there's 2 more. And another one goes by. He winds up in 17th. And before, he was fighting for, well, would have been fighting for 8th with Edwards.
Yeah, also tells you, I mean, okay, he lost a lot of the time, but that also tells you how close the middle of the field is, such as this battle for 10th position between Andrew Duffy and Joshua Daniels, which has been going on for a couple of laps, as pretty much every battle that Duffy's been involved in today.
And credit to Duffy, not only has he been fighting hard, he actually started this race in 9th, and he's in 10th currently. So for all this talking about him losing spots, he was basically handing back the ones that he gained from the start of this race.
See one car making the pit stop there. That was a lapped car, Daniel Barnett. So he's actually off the pace, letting him go by. But as you mentioned, the pit window is open, so you can pull through the glass well. Well, pit window is, I believe. But here we go. Armando Edwards getting a run on David again, but not going to do anything with it.
He's staying close with him. I don't think we noted this, but Kyle Kammer has been in the pits for about 6.5 minutes. He must have had a major incident. I did notice that he was in pit lane at one point, but I thought maybe it was a scheduled stop. It looks like that is not the case. Still chasing him up the hill to the highest point on the track here at Lukey Heights. Edwards in the bright magenta and yellow machine. The orange and white belongs to James David. Don't need to go to it, but Owen McLaughlin had another self-spin. He falls to 21st from that.
You know what's going to be interesting soon is watching the drivers 16th through 18th come through the field as they catch the middle of the field. Eric LeBlanc, Jean-Francois Matt and Raymond Day are all very fast cars who have been pushed back there. And so at some point, they're going to have to work their way back up through the Hornets' nest if they want to get a top 10 out of this. Right now, there's a battle going on between Kevin Santana and Christopher Richards for 13th too. So still plenty of action around here on the circuit.
That was Edwards getting back by Davids that we saw on screen. Santana, one of those ones that's trying to fight his way back forwards. Now that he is by Richards, he's got about 1.5 seconds to get up to Nicholas Delp, who is in 12th position. Richards does not fight back now that they break into Honda corner.
Yeah, the driving 16th, Eric LeBlanc, it can very faintly see out of his windscreen, whatever you want to call it, Andrew Duffy in 10th. That middle part of the pack is still quite close, so the fact that we're seeing some big names down in 16th and 17th does not mean a good finish is out of range.
Oh, and it looks like one of our top runners finally pits. So Roy is in. We've also had Andy Spicer with an off in Honda corner. That was all by himself. Love this paint scheme on David's car. I know maybe it's just my Americanism showing, but whenever a car is just covered in stickers and sponsors like that, it feels like cars I grew up seeing, honestly.
Yeah, well, probably a better paint than the strategy call. I don't know why one of our lead cars with a quiet race going would want to get thrown back out in this Hornets. Let's look at that, yeah.
We need to go back to David Soroy because he nearly ran into the back of David Blackwood on pit exit. For some reason, Blackwood just pulled to a halt and blocked the exit.
Armando Edwards is off, Joe. We'll catch this first and then we'll go straight to Armando Edwards because I think this might be terminal. That looked like a lap car just trying to let the leaders go by. He was using pit exit as a yield sign there, kind of, which I don't think he really should have been doing. But yeah, that just goes back to I don't know why Sir Roy would be making a stop this early. And there's what happened to Armando Edwards. This was happening pretty much the same time, so we'll catch a replay of this. You can see it's a self-induced spin. There's some banking all the way on the inside of the grass there. Well, I say self-induced. Let's see if he was...
No, there wasn't contact. Oh, you know what? He was sort of belly up on that ridge there, so I wonder if he got a lot of damage to the underside of the car.
Both our leaders are in, Joe. Okay, so this explains why. And here we go. Holland's got him.
I wondered about that. Holland maybe saving a bit of fuel back there. And he had a quicker stop by about a second over Greg Seitz. That's what he needed. He is now by. He's got the track position. Greg might be quick on a single lap, but the question is, can he come back and fight for the win here on track?
So there's my answer, Joe answered, on why we had some cars pit in kind of early. It looks like it's a very narrow pit window today. The high speeds around here are making these cars very thirsty.
Certainly is. Whoop, there's another car off. That's Spicer in the exact same corner once again. Lionel Duprat, the only one that we're waiting on to come in from the lead lap drivers. There's the 88, temporarily leading. Pulling in Antonio Giovinazzi for a moment.
Yeah, and let's give a shout out to David Soroy. I know I questioned his strategy, probably unfairly so, and also he had a bit of a moment with the lap car pit exit, but I think he is still going to be third.
Yep, you're right. He did cycle back in that third place, but he's ways off of Seitz right now. Ooh, but I think Greg might get a good slipstream down the front stretch. As we check in on this battle for the lead. Holland. Oh, wow, he's not really gaining. Took until the very end of that straightaway for him to finally make some inroads on David Holland. Last of our drivers have now pitted. Looking through the order, looks like, is Don Lee in for a second pit stop? Or is he finally taking his first?
Yeah, he could be taking his first. Watching the two leaders, Joe, they're quite close together. Let's now throw into the factor of this race lap traffic. I think it will be a tiny bit of a factor later on. Not a huge one, but obviously it's something that could change the outcome of this race, especially with the top two being this close.
David Holland continuing to lead. And they don't have traffic directly in front of them. It's quite a ways before they will hit the first car. So last time it was about this distance, just around 4/10 coming onto the front stretch for Greg Seitz, and it didn't quite work out for him. But this time it looks mildly closer, and he's staying right in the tire tracks. It is gaining a little bit more, and he's going to get within about a car length by the time he runs out of racetrack. Oh no, he's going to get fully alongside. He had a magnificent run through Dewan. It just put him on the wrong side of the track by the time they braked for the southern loop.
Yeah, no, that run came eventually, Joe, but it came very late. Holland might have to go defensive here again, or maybe not. I almost wonder if Holland is running less downforce, and I think Sykes is struggling to get a run on him. But then again, we never really saw Holland try and make a run at Sykes earlier on. It's kind of hard to say, because now we know Holland was just saving fuel during the first half of a race, or so it would seem.
It's worked out well for him. Again, he's won 4 out of the 5 races contested. And it's going to be difficult for Greg Seitz to try and overtake him here. He's beat him once. He knows he can do it, but he's got to really fight hard to try and peel this lead away from David Holland. I don't think he is going to make this easy on the number 74. Back onto the front stretch, mildly closer this time, but not by much, just a foot or two.
Sykes. Let's see, this is where he made it last time. He's going to make it again. He is going to pull up alongside, and he's got a stronger run this time, but still, like I say, Joe, not in the position I think that he needs to be in. Holland trying to not give him the outside lane. Okay, now I think he might have something here, because Sykes is going to have the inside for the hairpin.
Does he cover him off? He could block him if he wants to, but he does not. And Seitz is deep on the brakes. He's down to the inside. He's got a nose ahead, but this pass is not done yet. They almost bang wheels as they come into Siberia. Now it turns back in favor of David Holland, but no, some way, using that banking, the number 74 is now your new leader once again.
Oh, well, old pal Richard Gloucester would be quite happy to see that in his home country. The 74 out front here in Australia. But now we're going to get an idea of what kind of setup does David Holland actually have. Because now he's going to be sitting in the catbird seat. He might be able to have a run on sides, and he'll show us whether he really was holding back in the first half of the race or not. He might not show us this lap though, Joe, because Greg Seitz got through that last sector a bit quicker.
Yeah, I noticed that he had pulled a decent gap. Oh, he is gaining quickly. I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think that was a good call. Ooh, and he hits his rev limiter there. Sort of spoils the fun on the way down into the southern loop. So for now, Greg Seitz will hold on to the lead, but Holland is threatening. You asked earlier about the story behind the name Siberia for that corner. I actually asked that a bit ago, but I'll have to get to it later because there was a little bit of a look from Holland. He's covered off by Greg Seitz. He's not going to give him the advantage coming into Honda, so they're going to stay put. To answer your question, from what I was told by the peanut gallery that day I asked that is one of the farther away marshal posts. So they call it Siberia because you get banished all the way out to the most distant spot. And also apparently it's very windy up there too, so it does get kind of cold.
Yeah, this is a coastal race circuit. Let's remember that. If we zoomed a blimp camera all the way out, you would see ocean.
Absolutely. So that's why you get some stiff breeze, I'm sure. Speaking of which, let me check. Yeah, it's about 10 miles per hour right
Holland.
now.
So if Holland really does have less downforce, he's about to blow by Seitz right here.
I think you're right. Seitz was just kind of making him hesitate there for a moment, just keeping the car in the middle of the road. But that looked pretty easy for David Holland. He is now back up to the front. And now they catch the lap traffic. Hey Bear is the first one that they're coming up to. Holland with a bad exit coming off of the southern loop, and Greg Seitz might be able to get a nose in coming up into Honda. He's pulled this move once before, and now they've got a potential pick here in the form of A Bear. Side by side through the corner once again. Not as far up on him this time, though. Looks like Holland was able to suss out that outside line a little bit better. He's back up ahead. Which way does A Bear go? The track switches back and forth, coming through Hayshed here. He's going to stay off the racing line and lets them through peacefully.
Yeah, I think he just wanted to get out of the way there, so bye Bear. But here we go, Holland leading Seitz down into the braking zone. Now Seitz might be carrying more downforce on his car, but as we've seen in the past laps, the slipstream is so strong on this front straight that he should still be able to pull out in turn 1 and make a move. So what are we looking at on the clock here? Still over 10 minutes left. I think even if we do see a lead change here, it's not going to be the final one.
Kind of makes me wonder if either of them will start thinking about last lap tactics. Seitz is going to try and pull that move again. And, oh, he's actually going to be fully ahead by the time they get to the braking. Wow. So Greg Seitz a little bit closer that time, and it paid big dividends. Didn't have to make the dangerous move around the outside of the southern loop. All this is happening in front of David Soroy, who is caught up by about a second, but even with all that battling, he is nowhere near catching the top 2.
Yeah, so what's all this worth, Joe? I mean, obviously, if you want to lead, you can make it happen on the front straight, but is all this near contact in the hairpins worth it with over 10 minutes left in the clock if you can just make a pass on the front straight again next lap? Or, as you mentioned, are these drivers just experimenting with runs? What can we do? What is the other guy's weakness in case it comes down to an infield battle on the final lap?
Well, there's that old saying that you can't take the jungle out of the tiger. So I almost feel like that this is just the racer in them wanting to be up at the front. So we take a glance farther back at battle we've got here.
Yeah, I think it goes without saying that Holland is going to sweep on by Seitz on the front straight and take a lead there. So what we got going on here, Joe?
This is between Delp and Daniels. Nicholas is in 11th and Josh is Nicholas is in 10th and Josh is in 11th. I'll get that right. They're getting ready to come onto the front stretch. This will be an interesting sight to see a different pair of cars because we've been watching Holland and Seitz for so long. What about 2 different setups? And Daniels a little bit far back, though, by the time they get out of Swan.
Yes, 2 cars close together in front of us, actually. No, there's not. Yes, yeah. Yeah, Duprat and Duffy are in a battle here for position as well. So Duffy has actually made up a couple of positions despite all the battles he's been involved in today.
Yeah, he's back up to 8th. Duprat is going to see if he can maybe try and get that one back. Both of them weaving back and forth to try to figure out which line they want. By the way, you're going to get little glimpses of a blue and white car ahead of them. Santana's actually managed to climb back up to 7th, despite his multiple woes. And 666 has made a great recovery. I didn't expect him to be as high as he is now. Jumping back to Duprat for that battle for 8th place with Andrew Duffy. Coming around to the front stretch. Didn't see a swap around between Holland and Seitz this time. Seitz was a little too far back. And that's what makes me think why we're seeing them fight so hard there, Sam, is that it seems like there's no guarantee they can keep up with the car ahead.
I think Seitz has to fight a little bit harder than Holland because I think both of them have worked out this point that Holland's got a more slipstream setup, and so it's going to be easier for him to make a move on the front straight on the final lap or come into the white flag than it is for Seitz.
Don't need to go to it, but Stephen Verity seems to have had an issue down in MG. He was all by himself, and he's got the car going back in 16th.
Yeah, Orange, you're going to check out this battle for P5, Joe? We got two teammates here on circuit.
I'm just glad you didn't say banana. Meanwhile, it looks like David is going to have the inside as they come into Lukey Heights, and I don't think that Sebastian fought him too hard for that one.
Yes. It still doesn't mean that this battle was solid. They're just going to be smart about it. Meanwhile, Greg Sykes has just pulled his... Oh, there's been contact between them. Sykes is off. There was big netcode here, Joe. It looked like a normal battle between these two. And Sykes... yeah, his left front wheel was broke. His left front wheel was broke. It's standing off. His race is done. But I think this was netcode.
Watching here on the replay as well as on my screen, and I think you're right. There's big netcode between them. That is a huge shame. Seitz has already had to take a tow. Couldn't even get the car back around just from that suspension damage. You're going to watch from Seitz's perspective. Hard to see from that angle, but yeah, I can tell you from the ones we were looking at, didn't seem he was nearly close enough to have actual contact. And this is going to be crushing because, again, he already has a 0 from a DNF in the very first round. So now he's got to bank on Holland having multiple bad days.
Yeah, and that obviously, in terms of a championship, will make Holland's job a little bit easier. He might be able to just salvage good finishes throughout the rest of the season. And that almost seemed like what he was willing to do today, Joe. He was willing to race a little bit less risky than David, I think, and in the end he's going to come out on top.
Battle for 8th place is awful tight. Lionel Duprat, Andrew Duffy, and Nicholas Delp. And this actually, well, this is going to be for 7th place because they're going to go by Greg Seitz in the pits. Well, I'm guessing is trying to get as quick a repairs as he can to get back out there. So continuing to climb. And with a great run coming up to the southern loop, Duffy is going to look to the inside. He runs out of an opportunity, so he stays back. Duprat fends him off, but he's got to do so for 5 more minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to have a lot of respect for Andrew Duffy if he brings home a finish here. It's not that I'm doubting his abilities, but he's pretty much been involved in fights for 45 minutes, and to be able to do that in these skittish cars and these cool conditions without any kind of incident will be, and especially coming home with the top 10, will be something to brag about.
Yeah, that is some good racecraft so far from the 019. We're watching him try and keep Nicholas Delp back. We're riding on board with Duprat right now. One of the various Vantage teams. Duprat's starting to get himself some distance from Andrew. It's what he needs right now because they're coming back around Swan here in a moment. Certainly doesn't look like Andrew Duffy is going to have enough of a slipstream to try and catch him. Instead, it's going to be Nicholas Delp who gets right underneath that gearbox before he ducks to the side. And he's going to try and take the inside of Duen. Can he get the job done, though? That's the question. And he starts to fall back. So the answer is no.
All right, so has that calmed down, Joe?
Nope.
No, it hasn't.
Delp with a great exit coming off of the southern loop. Duffy does have the inside as they come up into Honda.
Off from fourth. Sebastian Prohl. He's gone from 17th to 4th, and now he's dropping back.
Oh. That's a lot of spots lost, and all from his own mistake. Let's watch the replay here. I can report that Seitz has left the session, so he is officially DNF'd now.
Yeah, this is a guy I wanted to give a shout out before that battle was brewing, Joe. I was going to say 17th to 4th. How's he done that? But unfortunately, he won't have a result to show for it.
He's still in 10th, so credit to Sebastian. Looking to see, yeah, his pit stop was normal, so there's no trickery going on there. This was just good pace. Wonder if he was another one that just couldn't get a good lap time in during qualifying. All right, 2.5 minutes left to go. Where is David Holland right now? He's on the other half of the course. So we've got 2 laps left, I believe. Checking through the field to see if we haven't given some love to people who are in battles, and unfortunately, they've all spread pretty far apart. The short lap time, though, has really caused them to have to run through a lot of drivers, along with the attrition, too. That certainly added to it, because there's only 15 cars left on the lead lap right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of them have just spun a lap down or two, not necessarily gone out the race. Got a bit of a battle for 6th still. But with Sebastian Pro going from 17th to 10th, I was also going to give a shout out to his teammate who was running up there from him. James David has gone from 16th to 4th, but he might not finish there, honestly. Kevin Santana might get that from him. Yeah, Kevin Santana listening to the old country song there. If you're going through hell, just keep on going. That's what he's doing in that 666 car. He might end up with a good finish.
And meanwhile, sounds like Christopher Richards was turned the wrong way. Yep, that'll do it. Looks like Off of Siberia dipped a wheel into the grass, and thankfully he didn't bound up and over those earth barriers.
Yeah, I feel bad now each time I see a spin in Siberia, thinking of all the marshals who have to wave flag in that cold temperature. Here we go, good battle for 8.
Duffy and Daniels, we were watching them before, and it's still going. It was for a few positions down earlier, but now that everybody in front of them keeps making mistakes, they've been picking them off. You can see the clock is ticking down, though. Duffy holds the advantage with that track position. I do believe David Holland is taking the white flag right now. There he goes on by. 1 more lap to go to make it 5 out of 6 this season for the number 18. A bit of a shame, though, that the circumstances had to wind up how they were, and we didn't get to see a fight all the way to the checker between himself and Seitz.
For what it's worth, I think he still would have came out in top. His straight line speed, I think, was going to help him there. But who knows? Greg Seitz is a great driver. He obviously would have had more downforce in the infield. Could have tried some nice moves there, and we would have ended up with a good. But definitely not going to be the way that Holland wanted to win this race. Meanwhile, who's going to get 8th?
Yeah, on screen, Daniels was closing quickly. Just didn't have enough straightaway to try and get by Duffy. Maybe Off of Siberia. It seems like this is an error-inducing corner. A lot of drivers have made mistakes off of there, neither of them doing so this time. But well, we got to go back to David Holland.
6. Right in front of him. 6 is up for grabs. Right in front of them, Duprat and Delp as well. But as you mentioned, Holland coming around to take the finish.
Yeah, unfortunately for the drivers fighting back there, we got to watch our winner, because the checkered flag is being pulled out, and David Holland takes another victory. He may not have had the qualifying. He won the war today. Number 18, your winner.
So 4th and 5th are battling, 6th and 7th are battling, 8th and 9th are battling, and 4th one I think is going to go to James David, unless Kevin Santana can pull something out here. The other battles, actually, I think are all resolved. They all might stay like this, but let's see. Can Santana get a good run out of a final corner?
He's got a decent run. He's starting to close. He's got to get there quick, though, and he runs out of time. So he's going to have to settle for 5th.
I don't know if Duffy will hold on to 8. Daniels has got a good run, but no, he's able to do it.
Not quite there. Who else is battling? Looks like they're all relatively separated. Yeah, I think everybody is split apart of our remaining drivers. To confirm, Soroy managed to get 2nd, and a driver we didn't really mention hardly at all, from 7th to 3rd for Daniel Kranefuss. A quiet run, but a podium finish. I'm sure he'll take that. We're going to go to break, though. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews. Stick around, because on screen you're going to see all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Welcome back to Phillip Island here in Australia. We have our winner. It's David Holland once again, his 5th win of the season. From 3rd on the grid, he managed to make do even with his poor qualifying. And David Soroy, who fell back, actually caught up to about 6.5 seconds left at the end. From 2nd place to 2nd place for him. He's sure he would have wished they would have fought some more so that he could gain some more ground. Daniel Cranefoos was 3rd, climbing up from 7th place. James David, 16th to 4th. Good gain. And Kevin Santana did actually gain spots. He finished in 5th place, but we didn't expect that by about halfway through this race. Lionel Duprat finished in 6th with Nicholas Delp in 7th, and Andrew Duffy finishes P8. Josh Daniels takes 9th, and Sebastian Prue, another one, gaining quite a bit, going from 17th to 10th.
Yeah, kudos to Duffy there in 8th place, because I was giving him a hard time earlier. Alright, who we got in 11th place? Eric LeBlanc. He also had a bit of a moment earlier on, got back to 11th. Jean-Francois Matt, likewise, similar story, finishes in 12th. Christopher Richards is 13th, and then Raymond Day is the last driver on the lead lap after a mistake in middle of the race, back in 14th. First driver, 1 lap down, Sheldon Rosenbaum. I know we didn't mention him at all during the broadcast because I actually forgot he was in the race. So there he is in 15th place, ahead of Stephen Veradi in 16th. David Hebert finishes in 17th place, ahead of Andy Spicer, who had a couple of offs late on. 2 laps down is David Blackwood, and Don Lee is 3 laps down, and that almost makes me wonder, Joe, that you're left here with the drivers on the final page who ran into trouble today. So let's talk to a driver who had a good race, and Joe, I'll hand it back over to you.
Indeed, David Holland taking victory, but let's start before the race, David. What happened? Did you have a connection issue? Because we looked around and saw that you were only starting qualifying when it was about halfway through, and we were a bit surprised by that.
Yeah, hey Joe, hey guys. I was scrambling before the race. I evidently found the magic combo on my wheel to put it into compatibility mode for the PS4, which doesn't work very well with the PC. So I was scrambling to figure out what happened, and luckily got it sorted out with a couple minutes left there in qualifying. But I was definitely nervous.
So knowing that, with as few laps as you had in qualifying, do you think you had pace to take the pole away from Seitz if you had a full qualifying session?
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure he put down like a 6, like a 121.6, which I could hardly do that even in the cooler temperatures. That was a heck of a lap by him. I doubt I could have got there. So he definitely earned it.
So it sounds like it was a bit of a moot point. Now let's head to the race. Were you running a low downforce setup? Because you certainly seemed pretty quick in a straight line compared to Greg.
Yeah, we definitely took a little bit more wing off than, we kind of settled with our setup and then took a little bit more off of that just so that we could, be a little bit more racy there down the straight.
Well, I'd say that paid dividends. Unfortunately, it was settled by what looked like netcode from our perspective in the end, which is a bit of a shame. But congratulations on your 5th win. Anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, I need to apologize to Greg. I went back and looked. It was definitely netcode. Super unfortunate. We were having a great race. It was a lot of fun. He's always really respectful and still races you hard, but definitely unfortunate for him. But yeah, need to thank PRL for organizing, NinjaTrader for sponsoring. You guys are GSRC for broadcasting, and the whole Vantage team. And got to give a shout out to my wife for being a good sport about it. Thanks, guys.
It was our winner, David Holland, who was talking to us there. And looks like Sam is caught up with our Buckeye in 3rd place, Daniel Cranefoos.
Yeah, Daniel, congrats on the podium finish.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I feel like I kind of lucked into that a little bit. I'm not sure what happened to my teammate, Greg. It sounded like he was having a heck of a battle with David, and then he disappeared. So I'll have to go back and watch that. But it was a fun race.
Yeah, he was in a good battle for the lead. There was a little bit of netcode, it looked like, from our end, but we'll let you go back and watch that. But obviously, it promoted you up eventually to a podium position. I just went back and watched your start. You were 7th at the start, 6th by the end of lap 1, 5th by the end of lap 2. Things were going well. You're going quite well for you in a race where a lot of drivers, as you mentioned, seem to be struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I've really been trying to focus on the last 2 weeks. Didn't work out so well for me last week, but yeah, I've really been focusing on getting the car underneath me the first couple of laps, and felt like I was giving up a lot in some of the earlier races in the early stint, and so yeah, just wanted to be as consistent as possible, hit my marks, and not overdrive the car. So yeah, I had a nice little battle there with Eric. I feel for him. I've been in that same position with him twice. I think Road America and Road Atlanta, we had a nice battle going, and I passed him, and then I spun out. And so I know how he feels. It's not a fun time, but he always battles me very fair. So it was good fun.
What was your setup approach to this race? We saw some drivers seem to be a lot faster down the straight. Were you carrying a lot of downforce, or is this one thing that you're not going to tell me because it's your strategy?
Not at all. I'm not quick enough to worry about people trying to copy me yet. No, I try to find a good balance. Last week, I managed to find the perfect balance of enough downforce to slow me on the straight, but not enough to help me in the turns. And I feel like this week I got the balance right. So I was quick enough down the straight, but still had some good grip in the corners as well. And worked a little bit, again, thanks to my teammate Greg. He's given me some good advice throughout the season, and played around with my brake balance a little bit during the race just to keep the heat out of the rear tires as it got further into the stint, and that certainly made a difference as well. I felt pretty strong under braking in this race.
Find a good balance, play with brakes. All right. Well, thank you for coming to talk to us, Daniel. It was very informative. Congrats on a great race out there. It was quiet, but it got you a podium finish at the end of the race, and we hope for your sake we'll see a couple more of those by the end of the season.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you very much. I just want to shout out to GSRC and the announcers, the director. Everybody does such a nice job. It's so professional. I've got a few friends and family that enjoy watching this, and you guys put on a heck of a show. So I'm just happy to be able to be a part of it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much to Daniel for all the kind words. We certainly love getting to broadcast these races because PRL puts on a good show themselves. Speaking of which, we got a few people to thank now that we are done with interviews. We also, of course, want to thank our sponsor, NinjaTrader. You can find them at NinjaTrader.com if you want to see what they can do for you. And also to iRacing for putting us on IESN. Make sure and subscribe. Very easy to do so. If you just scroll below this video on YouTube, click the big red button that says subscribe. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and the hardware for our broadcasts. They're listed here on your screen. Additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sam, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. Our social media is Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram, GSRC_Graham. We've got Interlagos coming up a week from now, Thursday, February 6th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We have upcoming races for other series as well listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.